Hey there, it's Lester Martin from Starburst Academy again, and we'll go ahead and get started with our first lab in this series that we introduced in the prior video. This lab is called Create your account for Starburst Galaxy and set up some data catalogs. It's probably estimated about 20 minutes. I'll find out as I go along. And the catalogs that we're going to set up are one for Postgres and another 2.2 in Amazon S3 bucket. Round out the lab with setting up a cluster and assigning the catalogs to it. First thing we need to do is go create a Starburst Galaxy account. So let's do that together real quick here. I'm going to say Lester, Texas, one of my aliases. I got a Hotmail account for Lester, Texas. I'm not a robot. Pretty normal stuff. Hit a create account. The lab guide, let me just point out, it just says, hey, follow the instructions that you see there, and say no to setting up our own data sources and yes to the sample data. So we'll make it to that part, and then we'll come back to the labs. All right, it says go check your email for a code. I see my email. Looks like I found my code. 5674. I'm going to verify. Now, we're going to pick a quick domain. I might as well say DBT workshop. DBT workshop. Galaxy Starburst IO. You can set any domain that you like there. So let that provision everything, get it all set up on our control plane. Need to set a password. I'm going to use the one I use for just about everything else, which is probably that password. Hopefully I know what it is. Create me an account. And a few more seconds here. All set up. Don't need to save that. I'm going to just skip past all this fun stuff. You're welcome to tell me a little bit about yourself, of course. I'll move up. I guess a few fields. Main reason I'm evaluating personal learning and development. Yes. And in my role, I guess I'm more of a data engineer. And what am I hoping to do with Galaxy? Let's see if I can leave, learn more, explore data lakes, and yes, probably all of these things. I'm gonna just check Trino and DBT. All right, so you'll have to do a few things. All right, it says we're gonna get set up. Let's say no to connect the data source, and let's say yes to query the sample data. We're kicked off at a free trial, upgrade the plan, all that kind of good stuff. Hopefully we can clear that message a little bit sooner. And it just dropped us off, it looks like, in a free cluster, etc. Hey, since we're here, I might as well just run one of these queries. Why not? Whoops. Let's see if that one will run. All right, that was pretty easy to get stood up. And there we go. We're querying data. I'm going to slide back to the lab guide. And here, to be honest, it just says walk through what we just said. The schema, demo, select the cluster called sample, the catalog called sample, a schema called demo. I think that's what we were at anyway. Well, they called it free cluster, sample, and burst bank. So why don't I pause and I'll fix that right quick. So a lot of this is about correcting it as I go. So hold on, I'll pause it. All right, I revised the instructions, which is primarily why I didn't put all those screenshots. This stuff could change pretty easily. It just says when prompted, choose to not connect your data sources, but do choose to use the sample data. When I did that, it actually dropped me off, as you saw a moment ago, and was looking at these burst bank data sets. That's fine. Went back to my lab guide on the left here, and it says, follow these steps. We're already there, but I'll just show you what they look like. Here's query editor. So it says expand query editor, and then walk through a cluster, free cluster, catalog a sample, and a schema called demo. And I went ahead and did those: free cluster, sample, demo, and then a little deeper just says, hey, run something like this query, select all from astronauts. I did. And across the bottom, what do you see? Some astronaut information. So that's good news. Looking real good. Configure a Postgres catalog. Let's do that. We are an account admin, so we can do these pretty easily. Actually, it tells us to go to catalogs in the left menu, hit this create catalog, and choose Postgres. So we can do that. catalogs, create a catalog, looking for a Postgres icon. There it is. And then we have a bunch of settings here. So let's see if we can do those side by side a little bit here. Okay. The RDS instance, all that stuff, this machine. These will be in that PDF if you're doing this yourself. 5432 is the port. The database name should be a query plan. And the master username is read-only user2. And then there's a big long password. We'll just get it from here just in case. We're basically setting up a direct linkage to that. Ensure the slider or TLS is to the right. Boom, 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 boom. And hit the test connection button. Cross our fingers and see if that went well or not. Now, did it test it? Maybe it's there we go. I forgot to name it something. Let's see what the instructions suggested. They didn't call it out. So let's add that real quick. There it is, DBT PostgreSQL. That was in there, DBT PostgreSQL. Provide a meaningful description. Meaningful description. There we go. Now we should be able to go down the bottom and try the test connection. Test connection, hooray, we're able to connect. That got us here, hooray. We're able to connect. We'll hit the, click connect catalog. So connect a catalog. And then it says, move over the slider to read-only catalog here. Slider read-only catalog there. And then just save the access controls as is. Okay, we can do that. Now, here it says skip the button to add into a cluster. We're going to do that a little bit later. All right, so close that out. There's our skip button, and we're back. Now, that was a quick add a catalog. Let's add another catalog, and we'll have this one use Amazon S3 as the backing store, and we'll call it, looks like DBT Quick Start with a meaningful description. So create another catalog to Amazon. We'll call it DBT Quick Start, and remember our description, meaningful description. Just have a little fun with it. All right, so we got some authentication stuff now. Excuse me. We'll check the radio button for AWS access key. That's how we'll authenticate. Okay, and then we have some keys and password stuff we need to put in here. Copy and paste this stuff. And remember, all this is in the PDF. All right, we got all that in there. What does it say next? That's that. Use the Metastore type of Starburst Galaxy. Again, didn't fill out all of these, didn't explain all this, but that's okay. Some of this we have to just take as face value. All right, a Starburst Galaxy, yep. And then we want to know default S3 bucket and a default directory name. So we're going to use this DBT Quick Start external, and DBT projects. I think we're going to move these two sliders. Move the slider to the right for both allowing create tables and allowing writing to creating external tables. Okay. And then the default format, let's make sure it is Iceberg. That'll be the last thing on that screenshot. Iceberg's already set. We can do the same thing. We can hit the test connection now. There we go. We got a nice green message that we can. And if we look over there on the right, it says save access control. Sounds kind of familiar. Okay, that's what we did last time. Well, maybe it says, yeah, connect catalog first. All right, let's do that. And then I think it just says do nothing. Save access control buttons when that comes up. All right, looks good. Save access controls. And we'll skip it, adding to the clusters, just like we did before. So skip that. Okay, now we need to do a few administrative stuff here. We need to add some access control privileges just to make sure everything is going to work in the remainder of our labs. And yeah, let's do that. So it says expand the access control from the menu on the menu on the left hand on the left and click Roles and Privileges, and click on the Account Admin for the list of roles. All right, so let's see, pop this back out. Access controls are right here. Roles and Privileges are right here. And then there's the Account Admin role that we were looking for. All right, click, 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 found all that. And then we're looking for a Privilege tab and an Add Privilege. All right, Privileges tab right here. And there's our Add Privilege. Looks like we do have some things already set up. That's awesome. Now here it says, what do we want to set up? We want to set a privilege that's of type location. Now I think the UI has changed a little bit. So let's call that a location tab. I'll pause it real quick while I adjust that. All right, just a little small wording change there. It says put this location here in this field, and it says check on the box in front of create SQL. And I'll change that because it actually says create schema and table and location. Same, but pretty close. Let me adjust it though. All right, I did update it to reflect the UI a little differently, but the realizations look like, fortunately, when we added the catalog to S3, it actually laid down the permission needed to this location. So that's a good thing. So we can simply mark a big call out right here. Is this not needed anymore? Let me catch that too. So I went ahead and decided to leave it in the video. I'm going to not do that. I'm just going to simply cancel out of it here. But for the video's sake, I left the messages in here and stuff, just in case later, if I find out I really, really need it, I'll remind myself a step to come back, and if not, at the end of these labs, to delete it. All right, so again, benefit of these videos is really for me to test out these labs too and get some timing, so I'm doing some of that. All right, so let's just progress on and assume we're adding the second privilege. So it says add a privilege, so we're here, add a privilege. Now this time we want to pick the Postgres catalog itself. So let's see if we can find that. Add to select tables. So on the, there we go, table radio button. And actually here I think we're going to say, instead of table radio button, we're going to say data tab. And enter these values. So hit the data tab. And here's where it might get a little bit weirder. We're going to navigate down here and then into the Jaffle shop. So let's say it that way. In fact, I will just pause, update all these instructions, and come right back. All right, again, good news is it looks like most of this is all set up. The only concern I might have about it is this step. But the more I think about it, it's probably not needed either. So got a minute or two of video that you watched. The good news is I can probably yank out that whole step about setting up privileges and policies. So let's step on going down to step 5, create a cluster. So as it says, pick the clusters on the left and then hit create a cluster. All right. And then from here, we want to give it a name. We're going to call our cluster just good old name, DBT. We'll call it lowercase dbt. And the catalogs that we want are the ones we just set up. The DBT Quick Start, the DBT Postgres, and it just says click outside of that to kind of get there. And then here's some more nuts and bolts. So let me drag this aside and see if we can fix it up. Cloud provider region. I think it wants us to pick US North 1, the only region that let us have it, that's fine. Execution mode, we'll leave it that in standard. Cluster size, free as standard. And then for us, let's just go ahead and jack this up to, let's just say an hour at this point to let this thing be good for us. We'll hit create cluster on the right. We'll look for, there's the settings we just did. And we'll notice, as it's saying here, it should be actually in a starting mode. So we'll let that spin. I'll pause until it's ready. It's a free cluster, so it's actually not the fastest, but it'll hold us. It'll work just fine for our testing. There it is. It's all running. And then it really just suggests, why don't we hit the ... on the far right of the connection here and pick query editor. So I will do that. Move all this onboarding checklist away. And on the far right, there is query the data. Now, by doing that, what it should do is take us to the query editor. How do we normally get there? Query editor on the left. But here we are. Drop this in our cluster, and as we can see, we have both of those two catalogs set up here. That's really the end of Lab 1. We'll just do some basic setup. And the good news is most of those, looks like all the security stuff is all taken care of as part of Create Catalog now. So power of a software as a service, doing updates continuously. Bad news, I'm going to leave it in the video, as you just noticed, just in case I have to come back and include something like that again. All right, appreciate it. Let's move on to lab number 2.